Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's honestly a total game changer. We are talking about mental resilience. That incredible ability to take life's inevitable curveballs and turn them into stepping stones. If you're a focused learner and you've been wondering how some people just seem to bounce back from failure or rejection, well, you're in the right place. We're going to unpack some truly fascinating insights today. Picture this. You've hit a moment where everything simply falls apart. Maybe it's a lost job, a failed exam, a rejected proposal, or a really painful financial hit. It hurts, right? It hurts deeply. But here is the critical question we have to ask ourselves. What actually makes the difference between someone who lets that devastating moment completely break them and someone who manages to bounce back even stronger than before? Let's find out. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the reality of setbacks. Look, life almost never follows our perfect little plans. The text we're analyzing today grounds this concept beautifully. It points out that whether you're a market trader in Lagos dealing with lost inventory, a student in Accra failing a massive exam, or a young entrepreneur in Nairobi whose brilliant startup idea just didn't work out, the fact is, we all face the storm. No amount of preparation or sheer hard work can completely eliminate uncertainty. Setbacks are guaranteed for absolutely everyone. So, your pain, it's valid. And more importantly, it is entirely universal. But here's the thing. It's how we handle that storm that writes our future. Think of it like a tree facing hurricane-force winds. A weak tree is rigid, right? It's inflexible. So when those heavy winds hit, it snaps. It breaks under the pressure. But a resilient tree, it bends, it sways with the wind, totally adapting to the immense force without breaking, and ultimately it survives to see the sun again. As humans, we face our emotional storms in exactly the same way. Section 2, what resilience actually is. Our source defines mental resilience as the capacity to face challenges, learn from them, and continue growing despite the adversity. I really want to emphasize that word capacity here. Resilience is absolutely not some rare genetic gift. It's not this elusive, innate trait reserved for a lucky few. It is a highly learnable skill. Just like learning to drive a car or speak in a new language, resilience is a muscle, and you can actively train it. And we should probably quickly debunk what resilience is not. A lot of folks assume that being resilient means pretending everything is totally fine, burying your sadness or acting tough 24/7. That is a really dangerous myth. The reality? Highly resilient people still cry. They still feel deep pain, disappointment, and anxiety. The major difference is simply that they don't stay stuck in it. They process those heavy emotions, and crucially, they know exactly when to raise their hand and ask for help. Moving on to Section 3, turning failure into feedback. Failure is feedback. I just want to let that punchy truth sink in for a second. Because from a very young age, we're basically conditioned to view failure as the exact opposite of success. But it's not. Failure is vital, high-quality data. It's like trying to open a locked door with the wrong key. You don't just assume the door is permanently glued shut, right? You just realize, oh, I need a different key. Failure simply reveals exactly what needs improvement for your very next attempt. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is the massive contrast between these two mindsets. When a huge setback hits, someone with a fixed mindset tells themselves, I'm just not smart enough, basically believing their intelligence is permanently locked in place. But someone with a growth mindset says, I can learn this. They see their abilities as fluid, totally capable of growing with targeted effort. Just that single shift in perspective, it changes how you interact with literally every challenge you'll ever face. It's incredibly devastating when we accidentally attach our core identity to our temporary results. Saying, I failed this exam just describes an isolated, fixable event. But saying, I am a failure, that attacks your fundamental identity and your self-worth. We absolutely have to separate the isolated event of a mistake from our core value. Remember, one single error does not define a human being. Which brings us to a line from the source material that serves as just this powerful mental breather. A rejection is an event. It is not an identity. Listen, if you take nothing else away from this explainer today, take this. A rejection from your dream job, an investor, or a university, it's highly situational. It's usually about timing or competition or just a lack of fit. It is never a permanent judgment of your ultimate value. Section 4, mastering mindset and emotions. So when something goes totally wrong, like losing a major client, your brain actually interprets that abstract modern problem as a literal physical danger. It sets off this primal threat response, intense fear, anger, paralyzing self-doubt. And the real danger here is that acting solely on those immediate, intense emotions almost always leads to terrible, impulsive decisions. You know the feeling, right? You might fire off an angry email or just quit a project entirely, purely to escape how uncomfortable you feel in that moment. To counter that biological freakout, you've got to master the pause. When those intense emotions hit, you just stop. Take a deep, deliberate breath. Think critically about your options and the long-term consequences of what you're about to do, and only then respond. Taking just a few moments to physically slow your mind down creates that vital space between feeling a negative emotion and actually acting on it. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most effective psychological techniques you can possibly practice: cognitive reframing. Instead of accepting the initial panicked thought like, oh no, I wasted all my money, you actively rewrite it. You reframe it into, I paid for an important lesson that's going to make me a much smarter investor. You're not ignoring reality, you're just changing how you interpret it, shifting right out of a helpless victim mentality and into a resilient, growth-focused one. Section 5. Daily habits for strength. Like we touched on earlier, mental resilience is exactly like a physical muscle. It's built through daily, repetitive habits. I mean, you wouldn't expect to run a full marathon without months of physical training, right? Well, just as physical strength requires regular exercise, emotional strength requires a daily, actionable toolkit to prep your mind for life's heavy lifting. We've got 4 foundational habits here that act as potent daily weapons against those dragons of self-doubt. Practicing gratitude deliberately shifts your focus from what's missing to the resources you still have. Positive self-talk actually programs your brain for confidence. You really have to start speaking to yourself with the same grace you'd give a best friend. Regular exercise literally changes your brain chemistry, burning off all those stress hormones. And finally, continuous learning ensures you're always adding new tools to your mental arsenal. You'll notice that highly resilient people are fiercely protective of their mental energy. They deliberately invest the vast majority of their focus into what they can directly control: their own effort, their attitude, and their preparation. They flat out refuse to waste precious energy stressing over external stuff they can't change, like the overall economy, the weather, or what other people think. They focus purely on what they can actually do. Let's move to the final piece and see how this all builds moving forward. Honestly, you don't want to wait for the storm to hit before you figure out how to build a shelter. You need a proactive resilience plan right now. First, define your vision. Give your efforts a clear purpose so you have a rock-solid reason to keep going when things get incredibly tough. Next, anticipate challenges. Sit down and brainstorm what could realistically go wrong so you aren't caught off guard. And crucially, build a support network. Connect with mentors, friends, and family before the crisis so you never have to face adversity entirely alone. I really want to leave you with this ultimate empowering conclusion straight from our source text. A resilient person is someone who rises every time they fall. Resilience is not about being perfect, guys. It is certainly not about never failing. It's simply about having the courage and the systems in place to dust yourself off and just keep moving forward, no matter what life throws at you. You have the immense capacity to grow through absolutely anything. Which brings us to our final, provocative thought for today. Your next setback is guaranteed. The storm is coming. But now that you have the psychological tools, the growth mindset, and the daily habits, how will you respond? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this gave you the blueprint you need. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep building that unshakable mental resilience.